Well, Gold Derby fans, he has brought alien worlds to life in a galaxy far, far away. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, and I'm very excited to be talking to Andrew L. Jones, production designer of The Mandalorian on Disney+. Thanks for joining me. This show has become a huge hit, and you know, the Star Wars universe, there's so much in that universe now, but it has a very distinct visual language. There's architectural elements and design elements that people associate with it. And so I'm curious how you grapple with that as a designer. Is that a sort of a help or a hindrance for you to have all of this pre-existing elements going in?
Oh no, I think it's great. You know, especially this one because it's such a great one. And the original broke so much new ground. And at the time, I was 14, I guess, when it first came out. And I went to see it with my mom. Just absolutely loved it. But you know, this was. At the time, I guess Logan's Run came out about the same time. Very, very different. This was a very bold new approach, and they didn't have a lot of money. And I think that sort of led to a certain aesthetic to the scenery and the props and the dressing, and that's something that John really liked. You know, A New Hope is kind of our touchstone here. We really try to lean into that and respect the work that was done on that project. And I got to say, you know, having done a project, this project, you know, 300 minutes TV, and recreating some of the sets from A New Hope and sort of channeling that project's aesthetic sensibilities. And by the end of it, I had such immense respect for the people that did the original film in difficult circumstances. I mean, we had a difficult time with budget and scheduling for sure, but I was just amazed at what they managed to achieve. You know, the Sandcrawler. We made one Sandcrawler pack. We were very pleased with ourselves. They built that whole thing and took it to Africa. I mean, it's extraordinary what they achieved. But to answer your question, yeah, the aesthetic of Star Wars. I'm working with Doug Chang, who's the creative director at Lucasfilm, and he's got an amazing art department up in San Francisco. And they live and breathe Star Wars. They really know it through and through. And the great thing that they've got is a shorthand, like a formula, if you like, an understanding of the language, and so that when the script comes in from John or Dave Filoni, they instantly start ideating on how they're going to get concepts that look like they live comfortably in that world, but satisfy the requirements of our production. We've got extraordinary set decorator and prop master Amanda Serino and Josh Roth, who've also gotten into the groove very, very closely, using similar techniques that Roger Christian and the prop masters back in the day used. You know, making props from ready-mades and found objects. And that's not just about an economy. It's about combining things that have got some kind of history about them that lends an extra sauce, extra spice to the sauce. So no, it's been a real joy to jump into this world, and I've got no problem sort of jumping on this particular bandwagon.
Yeah, and you know, it's obviously a huge team and a collaborative effort, and I was wondering about that because the visual effects team for this, there's a whole new visual effects technology they created called Stagecraft, which allows for these massive virtual sets. So I imagine there has to be a huge collaborative process with that department. What is that interaction like?
More than any project I've been on, and I've been on a lot of very visual effects heavy projects. Motion capture. This one, more than anything, requires a collaboration, a tight collaboration between all departments, and certainly between the art department and production and visual effects, who are typically post-production. I mean, they're always there, making sure everything's going well so that when they receive the footage, they're able to work with it. In this case, we're kind of doing it backwards. Are you familiar with the process that we're using for a lot of the project? The Stagecraft, you say, and then that's on the volume, which is a stage with LED panels on the walls and the ceiling, and it's a lighting device, but also it's got final pixel, meaning you can film live content which moves as the camera moves. Fantastic. But the thing about that is we've got to have all of our ducks in a row, all of the sets designed and figured out in collaboration with visual effects. Visual effects have got to have had all of their involvement and input before we can get to the shoot. So typically a production designer would be, finished at the end of production on the last day of shooting, maybe stick around for a little bit. But in this case, we're there through post essentially because it's happening up front. That's not to say that there isn't post as well. And, thank God we've got ILM as our partners because they're extraordinary. And I just want to sort of say the Richard Bluff and Jason Porter, who are working with supervising visual effects supervisors, have been extraordinary partners, very, very generous and collaborative and smart. So it's required a great deal of collaboration, and we've kind of got into a groove. So, like I say, more than any project I've been on, every department is very comfortable working with each other. There's one process, for example, whereby if we have a piece of dressing that needs to be seen in the LEDs in the background, and we've got another one in the foreground, Amanda's team have got to build that, get it approved, get it painted, get everything done as though we're about to shoot it. Then it's got to be scanned, brought into the virtual art department, incorporated into the set to everybody's liking. Then that's got to go through all of the process of getting that ingested into the digital content. So just the act of creating a bit of set deck has added all of these additional layers to Amanda's work. But once it's there, and we're done. And if the shot works out, it's all done, and it's a beautiful thing. And we can use it elsewhere. There's certainly a lot of reuse going on, which I think is something that George probably got a lot of value out of through the early films. We're able to do a certain amount of changing and reincorporating dressing from one set to another.
And this, as you're describing it, it's such a massive undertaking, it sounds like. And every episode has a new world, and they're all distinct, and there's new ships, and everything has a very distinct look. So I'm curious, how do you as a designer go about avoiding things looking the same kind of as things go along? How does each one of those episodes in each world get their own look? Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's John kind of within the design language that we've got and the scope of our project. John's really tasked us with creating a number of different looks and different planets and different conditions, and that is a challenge. We don't have a large footprint at the studio we're at, or a lot of space to spread out and have standing sets. So we've got to kind of learn to move fast. And for production design, that means having a really, really tight team of craftspeople who are able to create sets with distinct looks. I mean, they're amazingly talented. You give them an idea, and they'll bring it back 100%. But then an ability to get that out and bring in some more. The volume stage that we've got, we got one volume stage, tremendously expensive and complicated bit of equipment, but there's only one of them. So we can't make a nice big standing set that sits there for 3 weeks while we dress it, and a couple weeks while it's getting noodled and then pre-light or whatever. It's got to get in there overnight, get shot, and then get out of there. So there's a sort of theatrical quality to our volume work, but the sets,
we've managed to get a lot of different looks, probably because we only have to create physically a small amount of set. You know, the virtual set continues beyond the LED walls, and so we're able to put all of our love and attention into these little, you know, beautiful sets with lots of greens and detail, and everybody's putting their love into it. But it's not big, you know, it's not a big complicated standing set, and because it's got to get in and out quickly, it's all sort of designed to be broken down and spread out. We do have a backlot, a very small backlot that we use for shots that are incompatible with the volume. Every now and then there's something. So we did get into some very complicated green sets and water sets, but yeah, the range of looks is certainly a challenge, and you know, we like that. That's kind of fun. Everybody kind of likes to put on the thinking caps and figure out how we're gonna do that.
And yeah, you mentioned the vistas kind of go on forever on these planets, but another thing I really appreciated that even though the show is so massive in that sense, is that there's a lot of set pieces that really directly relate to the characters, whether it's like Baby Yoda's little cradle that conjures up such a great image, or the armorer's lair, which seems so ancient, and it's all connected to character with her smelter machine. How do you approach making something that has to connect to a character that way?
You know, that's just the standard practice. It all starts from the script and the story and what's happening in the scene. And so we long for, you know, getting the familiarity with these characters. And the great thing about a TV series is like this is that we start to get to know more about the character. And as they recur in later episodes and hopefully other seasons, then we can sort of start to enlarge on their character in the sets as well. So there's a few key characters that we really pour our love and attention into, and hopefully the sets that they're inhabiting are extensions of the scene of the stories that their story arc. Yeah.
Is with all of these things, is there a particular favorite design or scenic element that made its way in that you're proud of?
You know, there's a lot, but there's one that was kind of fun that was almost accidental. There's a scene at the end of the first episode where the IG-11 and Mando break into the stronghouse and are going to meet, you know, a young small character. So we built that set, and you know, things develop as things are rehearsed, and that interior scene there changed a little bit. We had to make more of a set out of that at very short notice, and it's in collaboration with that was Greg Fraser, the DP, at that episode, and later we had Baz Adwine, but Greg had asked for, you know, space to get cameras and scenery, but when it came down to it, we needed to end up closing off that set to control the lighting for the action that was going to be in there, and very short notice. So we built additional walls, but the day before that, we figured that wasn't enough, and we had to create a ceiling that, you know, with the lead character having the chrome helmet, you can't just throw a blue up there, or, you know, even a rag that doesn't look consistent with what the ceiling of the room would look like. So we had to put something up there that would actually look like a ceiling. So we had to do the ceiling of a really big room, you know, overnight. So the sculptors had a bunch of, you know, foam planks about that dimension and 8 feet long, cut out of a block of foam. And Stacy Klinger, our extraordinary painter, got those all painted up to look like planks, and we were going to put those across the ceiling in a sort of like floorboards on the room above. In the end, we didn't have quite enough, so we had to space them out a little bit, and then they're ready to shoot. So we put the planks up there, and had to space them out so they covered the whole space. And as it happened, we ended up putting a little bit of smoke in there for the gag of the door being blown open. So there's a bit of smoke in there, and then the clouds went away, and the sun came in and blasted in through the top and created these extraordinary beams of light through the scene. Actually more extraordinary to see in real life than we managed to capture on the film, but you can see it about on the film there. And it looked great in his helmet. It looked extraordinary in the lighting and the atmosphere. Complete accident, but I pretend I planned it that way. It just happened. So things like that, that wasn't planned. It would have been, the best thing if I could have had that all figured out ahead of time, but it ended up. So that was a fun one.
Happy accidents produce fantastic stuff. And I wanted to ask you finally that because you've been nominated already for this work from the Art Directors Guild, and which is an award you actually picked up previously for your work on Avatar. And after going through a massive shoot like this, what does it feel like to be recognized by your peers that way?
Well, it's really, when you're in the trenches doing it, it's just, oh my God, how are we going to get this done? Especially with a TV schedule. Oh my God. So we're just trying to, not fall flat in your face. And in a project like this, everybody kind of gets into it. Everybody on the show, like I said at the top, we're all fans anyway. And we just got really into this. And John was such a sort of enthusiastic helmsman for this. And Dave Filoni's, got so many great ideas. We just got completely wrapped up in it. And we were just, nose to the grindstone, making it all happen. TV schedule, like I say, absolute killer. We didn't have time to come up for air until it's over. And then hopefully, folk are going to like it. It did okay. So we're tremendously pleased that it did well. And in retrospect, the fact that people recognize it beyond that is extraordinary. And it's a testament really to this crew, the artisans, the craftspeople that we've got on the show in very difficult circumstances really did extraordinary things. The process that we're working with on this show or that we worked on the show, we're refining it. It's new technology, so we've made mistakes. We sort of pushed the boat out, and John was constantly sort of pushing for us to try new things and make it work. And it eventually did, and we're tremendously proud of that. It was difficult, but it wasn't. It was all towards something that is now starting to pay. Laterally, it was paying off.
Yeah. Well, the audiences and everyone have certainly responded well to it, so we can't wait to see where things continue when the story picks up.
Yeah.
So everyone who's out there watching, make sure you subscribe to Gold Derby. Keep up to date with us throughout Emmy season. And Andrew, thank you so much for talking with me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks, Sam.